let's kind of transition over to the topics that I mentioned, starting with the college football championships. So yesterday on Monday, the 10th, the Alabama Crimson Tide played the Georgia Bulldogs for the college football national championship title. Coming into this game, I honestly thought Alabama would just beat them again, just like they did in the SEC championship. It was a pretty good game. I was quite surprised. The beginning of the game was a little slow for me. At halftime, Georgia had 6 points. Alabama had 9. It was just more of a defensive battle, and they weren't letting any big plays get away. It was a little boring, I'll admit. But some people, that's what they love to see. They like to see these defensive battles where every yard matters to the team. And then, for those who watch the game, you definitely know in the last half, things definitely started to speed up, which I expected because defenses, even elite defenses, they will start to get a little tired towards the end of the game. You don't see very often where there's a complete shutout or the flow of the defense stays consistent. There are sometimes, but this game is a little different because Alabama and Georgia are both elite programs. In the third quarter, Georgia scored the first touchdown of the game. Alabama responded, and then as we got into the fourth quarter, things started to take a dip. Georgia scored 20 points in the fourth quarter, while Alabama only scored 9. And the finishing blow of the game was the end of the game pick 6 that was caught. The quarterback for Alabama was Bryce Young. He had 369 yards off of 57 attempts, which included 1 touchdown and the 2 interceptions, one of the interceptions being the pick 6. But to me, the hero, or pretty much the star of this little story, is Stetson Bennett, the quarterback for Georgia. For those who don't know who Stetson Bennett is, he has been with Georgia for so many years. He was a true freshman that walked on to Georgia and had to be the backup. The following year, he went to play at a community college, but still found his way back to Georgia to still be a backup. Kept on being a backup to people like Justin Fields, JT Daniels, Jake Fromm, but he still stayed, and he waited. He kept waiting and waiting. And then it was his final year, and he got the starting role, and he led Georgia to be the number 3 team in the country all the way to an SEC title game, even though they lost, but all the way to the college football playoffs, beat Michigan with 3 TDs, and beat Alabama. He outplayed Bryce Young. Bryce Young was the number 1 quarterback in his high school class. Number 1 everything. Top of the list. Stetson Bennett was just a walk-on when he went to college. Bryce Young was also the Heisman. Led the I didn't know. I think he got second in total TDs, but he just looked unstoppable. He was the Heisman favorite since week 1, in my opinion. Stetson Bennett wasn't scared. He definitely, actually, you know what? He was a little scared. First half, he was just getting clobbered. Alabama was just way too much for him. Sack after sack. It just wasn't looking pretty. And then that's when I started to realize that, yeah, he's definitely not getting much. If it comes down to a shootout, Bryce Young will beat him. However, last half, he stepped up and he threw those 2 TDs that we mentioned. I mean, it's hard because you got to go against people like Will Anderson Jr., who's a monster. Another one would probably have to be Christian Harris. He had 3 sacks that game. It's probably very overwhelming for him. But he had his team on his back. He had his team with him, and he was able to push through. Thanks to Zamir White, who got a rushing TD, and George Pickens, who really changed the momentum of the game with the 52-yard pass in the third quarter. It was a great game to watch. I think what really just determined it was the secondary. Georgia's secondary was just not allowing Alabama to get an inch of free space. And if they did get some space, the receivers just weren't there. I believe one of Alabama's top receivers was out for that game. So that definitely hurt Bryce Young when it came to kind of throwing it deep. And then of course, the pressures, because you got, as I mentioned, Will Anderson Jr. was attacking Stetson. And then from Georgia, You have Channing Tindall, who had a sack. Nolan Smith, who also got a sack. Robert Beal Jr. Jordan Davis is someone that I really think will be one of the top picks in the draft. He's just unstoppable. But it was a great game. I was really surprised with how the second half ended. What does this mean for next year? Probably the same thing. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. They're probably going to be in the top 3 in the preseason favorite. And it'll be the same thing. We watch them play, and then when it comes to the end of the season, things start to change a little bit. But I'm excited. It was a great game, and I'm excited to see what's in for next season.